Hi, how's everyone out there doing today? This is Amy Hamilton, author of The Project Manager, Life is a Project, and The Consummate Communicator, Character Traits of True Professionals. Today is our marathon session, 24 authors in 12 hours, November 11th, Veterans Day edition. And one of the things I'm doing today is featuring authors through Free Agent Press. James Woosley is a Air Force veteran. It is a veteran-owned organization, and he put me in touch with so many of the amazing authors that he has helped to get published. And I'm here with Christine. And Christine, correct me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Odell?
Odle, like yodel
Odle.
without the Y.
Oh, I was so close. And I was like, which, I practiced it and of course messed it up, now that we're live. But Christine,
Right.
can you share with us a little bit about what inspired you to write your book?
Well, I'm a business coach and a financial coach, and sometimes you just sound like a broken record over and over and over again. And so I was kind of doing the broken record thing in a mastermind group, and then I met a lady named Emily Chase Smith who was going from being a business financial coach herself to being a ghostwriter. And I had read her book, The Financially Savvy Entrepreneur. And then I called her and I said, okay, great book. I loved it, every bit of it, but there's a problem with the book. She said, what's that? And I said, well, it ended. You didn't put it, you left out stuff. And she's like, oh, really? She says, it's a book. You can only put so many in so many pages. And I said, well, I wrote an outline of another book. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm ghostwriting, so I'll just ghostwrite your book. And so we went into the process of her ghostwriting my book for me, and uh, and then in the middle of it, something happened in her life that she kind of had to hit pause, and so I stuck it back on a shelf and said, it's not going to happen. And then several of my friends said, oh, wait a minute, you know somebody, and he can help you, and his name is James Woosley. And I said, I get chills every time I think about it. And I said, really, really, he can help me get this from this manuscript to a book? And they said, oh, he's the best. And so I just picked up the phone and called James and I said, I'm stuck and I need to get this done. And he said, let's do it. So 6 months later, I had my book in hand. And it was,
So don't just flash it up there. Hold it up there a second for us, Christine, and tell people the name of your book.
okay, here it is, Rocking Your Business Finances. And he brought on something really incredible to the book, which was his daughter Anna. And I just have to show you this because it's one of my favorite parts is the B. So BB, with a name like BB, which is my maiden name, you get called Bumblebee and all kinds of things. And she came in with the Bumblebee on each chapter page. So I was excited by that. But
That is super exciting. I'm going to put your link, your Amazon link, right here in the chat. So anybody who wants to check out Christine's book, please take a look at it. It's available on Amazon for purchase. And do you have other means of purchasing your book as well, Christine?
honestly, Amazon's the best. They'll get it to you a whole lot faster than I ever will. If you're in front of me and you're talking to me and I have a copy, I'll hand it to you. But if you expect me to put it in the mail, I live in the country, and so getting to the mailbox is like once a week, maybe if I'm lucky. So um, Amazon's the best way to go.
No, I think that that's a great point. And one of the reasons why 24 authors in 12 hours came about is because a lot of the authors that I communicate with in my authors forums were like, oh my gosh, COVID has changed everything. We used to go to like little, coffee shops and independent bookstores and be able to promote our books and book festivals. And I really just miss that environment. And of course, I had planned myself that this is where I was going to promote my books. And I really wanted to give authors a forum to just sort of like share about their book and what it is that they're trying to accomplish with their book. And then what can readers get out of the book? And so I'm going to open that question up to you, Christine, is what can a reader expect to get out of rocking your finances? Because I mean, who doesn't want to rock their finances? And hopefully you mean rocking in a good way instead of rocking off a cliff or
Yeah, one of the things I get involved in with the business finances, people always come to me and they're like, "Well, I went to this sales class and I went to this marketing class." Then all of a sudden, I'm starting to make money. And when should I set up my bookkeeping? And how do I set up my bookkeeping? And when do I know how to be what kind of a company I should be? And so these common questions come about like, should it be a DBA? Should it be an LLC? Should it be a corporation? Um, and when I ask people, like, how do you set up your business? I don't know. That's the big question. And so I actually have an entire chapter on how to set up your business and what the difference is there's a legal side and a bookkeeping side, a tax side to your business. So the legal side is going to protect you from lawsuits or, kind of separate your human body from your business body. And then the tax is how you file your tax returns and why you would do bookkeeping in the first place. If we didn't have to file tax returns, why do bookkeeping, right? And so it lays out how to do the bookkeeping, how to pay yourself, how to create benefits plans. A lot of people won't leave their day job because they don't want to leave their benefits. But when I teach them that they can build their benefits right back into their business, they're like, oh, what am I waiting for? I should just jump into my business. And that's exciting. And same thing with, I had a client about a year and a half ago. They said, well, we bought this business for our retirement. I said, well, what's your plan there? Well, we'll just work in it for a while and then we'll sell it in 25 years. And I said, let's do something else with the profits. Let's fund our retirement plan. And so we are funding a simple IRA for both of them. It's a married couple. So husband and wife are fully funding their retirement plan through their business with the profits. And so not only are they going to sell their business for a profit because they're screaming good business owners, but they're also going to build multi-million dollars of a retirement plan, just by understanding that one comment on what that meant to them.
It's pretty phenomenal. And so you have your website listed here, scrolling across the bottom, rockandbb.com. What could a user expect to find when they go to that kind of site, and what services do you offer, Christine?
So rockandbb.com, christineodle.com, they're kind of more like resumes than actual, there's not a lot of content there. I find that when I work with my clients, it's one-on-one. It's, you can buy the book and you get all the basics, but when you actually come to me, then you get the deep dive. And so, I just got off the call about an hour ago with another client. They've read the book, and we were still able to go through and find about $1,500 in savings in tax for this year, just in just one phone call. So, sometimes it's just going in a deeper dive with somebody, and that's what I do. So it's a combination of business CFO services. So, imagine a huge organization like Dell or Apple, they all have a CFO and a controller and all of that. Well, a little company can't really afford that. But a little company should afford at least a really good CPA or what we call interim CFOs. And that's what I do.
So if they go to rockandbb.com, that's how they could schedule a consult with you?
Yeah, there's a contact form in there. They can reach me. I'm pretty open book. You can go there. I believe my phone number is still on the site, and I answer my phone when I'm not talking to people. And
such a novel concept today.
Call me and I'll answer. It's great. So yeah, I'll answer the phone. If I don't answer, if you leave a message, I'll call you back. I don't have a secretary. It's just me. So yeah, I just love helping people and small business owners.
That is so tremendous. And so many small business owners don't know who to reach out to or what to do. And like you said, to figure out I know I've spent a lot of time over the past few years trying to figure out the best way to manage taxes and things like this. Our tax code is extraordinarily complex. And you said you can help people with that?
Yeah, I'm not a tax accountant, but I've spent 27 years working in small business finance. Variety of levels. When I first started out, I was managing a company. Well, it was a gentleman who had 9 companies. He was what we call a serial entrepreneur. And when I was hired, it was like, here's my bookkeeping. Do the best you can. Good luck. And he kind of walked off. So at 27 years old, I'm thinking, okay, can I do this? Can I figure this out? And so he just said, here, take as much time as you want. You're working full time for me. Just dig through it and learn how to do it. And so it was really a self-taught thing. And about 2.5 years later, he called and he said, we're going to move to Denver. And we were living in Telluride, Colorado at the time. And he said, we're going to move to Denver. We're going to redevelop Stapleton Airport because you have the skills to do this. And I was like, I'm not going to Denver. Sorry. No offense to people that live in Denver, but I wasn't going from my little town in the mountains to the big city. Not happening. And so he just kind of said, well, what do you want to do? And I told him I loved doing what I did for him. And he said, great, because I have a whole bunch of friends in Telluride that are desperate for me sharing you. And I'm like, really? When were you going to tell me this?
When you decided you would move to Denver with him.
Right. So he said, because I wasn't going to share you, I was just going to take you with me. And then when I said I wasn't going, he said, okay, well, I'll share you. And he helped me get several of my very first clients. And I set up shop as a professional bookkeeper, office manager. And every day I would go to multiple different offices and do that. So, and of course that evolved into something else, which evolved into something else, which by the way, is what happens with most small businesses. There's a complete lie out there that the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center, tries to tell people is that 80% of small businesses fail. They don't fail, they evolve. So Dun & Bradstreet came back and said they don't fail, they evolve. So they might start doing this, but then they change a little bit, and then you change a little bit. They might stay in the same industry, but they might just effectively change a whole lot, so it doesn't look like, business 1.0 doesn't look like business 10.0, right?
Right.
So most businesses don't fail, they just evolve. They just change their ways of how they're doing things over time. So
I
that's
think that's
what I do.
such a great point. And, as authors, we're also, that's like part of our small business that we're doing. And sometimes for many people, being an author is being a small business. And it's so important to support small business, especially right now during COVID.
Yeah, COVID's changed a lot of things, but it hasn't changed the ultimate thing is that we want to work at something that we love to do and we want to make money doing it.
A
So,
great point. I'm going to take a break. We're about midway through. And one of the things I like to highlight is that today, for anybody out there, my books are free for Kindle download on Amazon. You can go to Amazon and download The Project Manager, Life is a Project, or The Consummate Communicator. And in addition to that, my books are also available in print editions. And if you purchase the book today, 10% of all print proceeds are going to be donated to the Wounded Warrior Project in honor of Veterans Day. And I'm putting the links up for the Wounded Warrior Project. If you are interested in donating either your time or money, it's a really wonderful cause. And the reason I am connected with Christine is through Free Agent Press, which is with James Woosley. It's a veteran-owned business, and he's an Air Force veteran. And even though I give him a hard time because I was Army and he's Air Force, we have a great relationship together. And I kind of want to segue a little bit. We just touched on it, but can you share with us, Christine, what your experience was like working with James from kind of cradle to grave? You mentioned you had this ghostwriter, and then it kind of got tabled, and then you were connected to James. And then how did this change? And then where did you go from that point to the point where the book was published?
well, like I said, my book was kind of dead in the water. I didn't even know where to go. So connecting with James, he just said, well, here's the process. And most of us as business owners have a process of some sort. That's how we serve our clients. And so he just said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to look at what you've got. We're going to build a layout on it. I had some charts that I wanted to put in. He said, oh, well, how are you going to do the charts? And I'm like, I don't know. And he said, oh, don't worry about a thing. I know how to do that. So he built the charts for me. Like I said, the artwork with his daughter, Anna, was just incredible. The bees, which was really exciting to me. And then, in another step, we got stuck on the cover. My initial design for the cover was horrible. It was completely horrible. I love photography. I love taking pictures, but I was trying to think of, okay, how do you do rocking your business finances, and what does that look like? Do I focus on a rock and go take pictures of rocks in the mountains, maybe falling down the hill? Or, do I take a photograph of a cowboy on a horse about to fall off? Because, it's when you're picking up a business book, you want to think this is where I am, but this is where I want to be. And by the time we kind of thought about all the terrible covers I had in mind, he's like, stop. Let's think about this. How do you want to make this really look like a cool book? And so we ended up doing one of those, I don't know, where you take all the words in the book and you throw it in a program and it sticks out the biggest words.
Oh, yeah, like a word cloud.
Right. So if you actually look at the book, you see the title, but you can also see in there that it says business. And the funny thing that happened, somebody said, how much is the book? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Well, it turns out that one of the word things that came $20. So apparently I used the $20 sign, that $20 somewhere in the book, like repeatedly. So it popped out right there. So I always thought that was kind of funny. Just kind of some quirky, fun things that happen with the cover. And I just think it's a great book and it's easy. Years ago I studied colors, and yellow is the first color your eyes see. So if you close your eyes in a room and you open them again, the first color you're going to see is yellow. So yellow on black was just a great idea. So,
And that really plays well into the bumblebee theme.
right, exactly. So yeah, so he was just really phenomenal on going through all of that with me. Like, this is the step and this is a step. And then he said, when do you ideally need your book by? And I said, oh, I'm doing a web or a conference for a women's conference. And he's like, oh, well, you need your book for that. And I said, yeah, I need my book for that. And he said, okay, great. We'll make sure you have books for that. So that was really incredible. And then, we send the first print out. You always do that. You always send the first print to see how it looks. I didn't even open the package because I found errors in the I don't know, the print part. And I was like, oh no, we have mistakes. And he's like, oh, don't worry about a thing. We'll just fix. And so he just fixed it immediately, sent out another one. I still have the original package that's never been opened because I know it's wrong. But how often does that happen in business where we think, okay, we're ready to do it, and then we print it all off and we're like, ooh, we have a big mistake. But it doesn't end the story. It just says, now we know what to fix for next time. And same thing with books. I mean, the next thing that happened is a lady bought my book, and she's an editor. And she went through and she edited it for me after it was published and sent it in. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I started reading through her edits and thinking, oh my gosh, it's not that my stuff is wrong and hers is right. It's that we have two different vernaculars. My parents are British. So when we were going through it, it was like, oh, that's a British way of speaking. And this is the American way of speaking. And that was really fun. To me, that was like something I didn't know. So all of that process of learning how to say, hey, this is a book and it's still great. And then you stick it on Amazon and it's open to the world to judge. And I've never once asked for reviews, which, well, now I'll start asking for reviews, but never asked for reviews, but I have 19 5-star reviews. And I'm like, wow, that's really cool. People do like my book. And it's not all people I know, by the way, because I've never asked people for reviews. So that was it. All of that is just kind of exciting of how to, you say, I have something important to write in my book. I want people to see it. How are people going to perceive it? Because you just stuck yourself on a shelf, right? And that's what book writing is. But James was just phenomenal in the entire process of building this book for me. So.
No, that's fantastic. I want to pull apart a couple themes in there, and I don't know who your editor with James was at the time. The person I spoke with before you was Jennifer Harshman, who's a professional editor. And she's super phenomenal, and I really enjoy Jennifer a lot. She's also been my editor, and she wrote a book about making sure that you get a real editor instead of scammers and posers, and what to do. And you bring up a really, really excellent point about putting yourself out there on the shelf. And one of the things that we talked about is that you will get some people who don't like your book, and that's okay. Or you will get people, like you said, with a different opinion on the editing process, and that's okay.
Right. And it was Jennifer, actually. I'd never met her before. We're good friends now. And it was her, and she was like, oh my gosh, James shared that with you. And I'm like, of course he did, because that's how we help each other in the industry. And it also opened up saying, I was born in America. My parents are British. I didn't realize that the way I speak is really that much different, and it tends to be. So
yeah, I lived for 2 years. I have my master's degree from the University of Liverpool, so it's English, but it's not the same English.
Right, right. I always tell people I'm trilingual. I speak American, English, and then there's another little vernacular called Norwoodian, which is the town where I grew up, or my husband grew up, or where we live now is Norwood, Colorado. It's a really small ranching community, but there's a vernacular by itself in Norwood. And my husband and I always joke about how he calls a washing machine a washing machine. So I asked him to spell it one time, and he said W-A-R-S-H, Warsh.
That is definitely interesting. So we are kind of coming up to the close of the hour, or the half hour. And before I close this segment, I do want to just ask, is there anything that you wanted to share today that I have not asked you about already? I know that these kind of become rambling interviews about different topics, but is there anything you want to share that I haven't asked you about yet?
You know, if you've got a book in your head and you want to write it, do it. Start. Do even if it's just a little manuscript or something. I'm working on another book right now. It actually has nothing to do with business or finance. It's got to do with courage and fear, and it's a kid's book. It's a story that I made up 10, 11 years ago, and then it's ended up. I'm actually looking at my computer screen. I've got the cover. I can't advertise the cover yet, but in that one I'm going more traditional publishing because I want it to get out into stores for kids, um, in libraries and all of that. So more traditional publishing on that. But if you've got a story or something important in your head, you've got to get it out to the world. Because if, again, COVID, if you die tomorrow, who's going to know about your thoughts in your head? Who's going to learn from you and your mistakes and your wins if you don't put it down on paper?
Such a really, really valuable point there. And a lot of the authors today, and so many times we talk about everybody has a story, everybody has something we're sharing. And that's a lot of this right now is people getting their stories out, people sharing their stories. Our next author is going to be Valerie Caramella, and Valerie is not one of James's authors, and I'm super excited she's going to be on. She talks about Jalen Rose of Rolling Brook is part of a trilogy. But before we do close, Christine, I want to thank you. I just feel so connected to all of James's authors, being one of them myself. And is there any closing remarks you'd like to make?
I'm just grateful and thankful for, number one, all the veterans that are out there. This is Veterans Day, and got a little bit of a background. Not a veteran myself, but my father was in the Royal Auxiliary Air Force in England. My grandfather was the Royal Army. And I have numerous cousins here in the United States that are veterans, and we couldn't enjoy the safety that we enjoy. Even COVID here is not like COVID anywhere else in the world. We at least have our safety. We don't have people bombing us, and that is because we have the veterans that have protected that freedoms for us. I'm just tremendously grateful for all of that.
Thank
And
you so much.
just we have the life that we have that's incredible because of those who protect us. So if you're an author or you've got a book in your head, get after it. If you're not sure where to start, call James. I mean, that's kind of, I think a little bit of this, I'm not just marketing him, but he really got my book to the finish line, which I never thought would happen. So I guess that's about it. And if you need me, like I said, my website's here, Christine Odle. Just call me, email me, whatever. I'm happy to help.
Christine, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day out there in Telluride.
Thank you. Take care.